All right, let's talk about master key system and maintenance. If you're going to be doing any sort of key work in your shop, you're going to need to put some thought into how you're going to store this information. It is in the wrong hands as deadly as any weapon, because it's not 1990 or 1980 or 1970 where there's not a YouTube to hop on that, anyone can learn about this stuff very easily. 30 years ago, there was not a YouTube to say, oh, how do I, change the battery in my flashlight? I've got and we've all used it. I've used YouTube to fix a coffee maker of mine, and many people have used my YouTube videos to solve some of their problems. There's one that I have about, because you're an industry expert, you know how when you have a deadbolt timed incorrectly, and every time you pull the key back to pull the key out, the latch bolt goes in. Well, that didn't work. I want to leave it locked. And you throw it, and then you pull the key back, and it unlocks it again. Well, it's just timing. And I made a quick 3-minute video on, basically it says, if your tailpiece is in this way and it doesn't work right, take it out and put it in this way. That's basically what it is. The point of that is that you have to secure lock this stuff down. It's got to be behind a password. It has to be locked up in a safe. It has to be, for confidential only. And that's just a requirement. And I think what we'll do is I will just kind of refer to my 1-paragraph chapter and read it. If you will be doing any keying in-house, you will need to maintain and securely store a KBA and bidding list. And I can tell you, because I've heard it said, factories have everything secure. Everything's behind passwords. Everything is guarded, defended, backed up. Everything is properly taken care of. And the cost, I understand, I could imagine for IT services to store that data is substantial. These two document types, the KBA and the bidding list, are required for you to service a client's key system. So if someone comes to you and say, hey, my locksmith is on vacation and I need you to master key a lock, and they give you the master and they say, yeah, whatever change key you want, well, that doesn't work if you're going to operate according to industry accepted standards. If you're going to do that work, you need to have the full system KBA and the full system bidding list, standard progression format. Unlikely that that's going to be produced because it's probably, hopefully, locked up at that other locksmith shop. When I agree to perform locksmithing services for a client, I assume the responsibility of professional stewardship over these records so that the client can leverage their relationship with my firm to their best interest. This may seem to be a pedestrian responsibility, but approach it with total professional and austere level of responsibility. Keep the records up to date. So what that means is if anything happens on the system, have your system of how you update your records so that you know what you did. Again, it's other people that will inherit the system later. It's strangers that may have to look at your paperwork. And for me, it's my future self. I want to be able to be clear to myself 10 years from now. What was I thinking? What did I do? And as I've said in the past, I'll write it one way, and then I'll basically say it again in using a different structure to the sentence so it'll reinforce what I did. I did this, this, and this because this is what allowed me to have accomplished. That sort of thing. Keep the records up to date, meaning any time the system is evolved, record this data and do so securely. Electronic records are to be behind passwords. Paper records are to be kept under lock and key. As I have said previously, there is professionalism in allowing your client to not need to be concerned over the management of their key records. You must maintain up-to-date records. You perform the stewardship of this system, and you can benefit from future requests for new sales in doing so. Win for the client, certainly a win for you. So keeping the material securely stored, safely stored, records kept up to date, it's, from my perspective, I go out of my way to make sure that the records are up to date, that I record what I'm supposed to record, and I make sure that things work. If it's just a cam lock, depends on who the client is. I may or may not record that bidding. But if there's any locksmithing done, that's all recorded. But we will always, at a minimum, make sure the key works the cylinder. I need to be able to have that customer walk in a month and say, hey, great, let's do 10 more. You've got all those records, right? And I have to be able to say, you bet I do. That's how you monetize. That's how you insulate yourself in the future, and locksmithing is a great world in which you can do that. Next chapter is what makes a good master key. This may or may not be ever something that you need to deal with, but to be aware of what goes into a master key in terms of how you put it together directly affects the system absolutely. What your key bidding array can produce based on your TMK is directly connected, absolutely directly connected. So let's go into what makes a good master key, and I'm not professing to be any more expert than any other amateur, and I believe there are 10 bullet points to this. This is not stuff I've made up. This is stuff that I've seen, read, studied, practiced, encountered, realized, and sure, my experience as well. You won't tell the factory what the master key needs to be. That's like your customer won't tell you what the bidding of the master key needs to be. But understanding if you're gonna get into a system yourself personally, you'll want to know some of this stuff, or at least be able to draw back on it, and help yourself develop a good master key moving forward. I know I use these rules when I do so. So let's move on to what makes a good master key.